Welcome back, guys. This is Lectric's new bike called One. I did not know anything about this bike and what I was getting myself into when I started this review and realized it automatically shifts gears for you. Like, what the heck's going on? Let's go over this bike and see if it's worth it by the end of this video. But first, let's go over the specs. 750 watt rear hub motor with a peak power of 1,310 watts, 85 Newton meters of torque, and it is 400% quieter than their other hub motors that they released. Metal pedals with a quick release. UL certified 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery, carbon belt drive system, rocking a 24 amp controller that is IP65 rated, 20 by 2.5 inch city street tires. You get hydraulic brakes front and back. Slime is also included in the tires at no extra cost, and that will help you prevent flats. You have a headlight up front mounted to the front fender. You get a working brake light on the rear fender. You have a rack on the back, decently sized seat, a little bit of suspension underneath the seat. Comes with a quick release. This is a look at the headlight and the brake light. One thing to note on this bike, when you are moving it, the kickstand does come in contact with the cranks. So if you are pushing this bike back and it stops, it will lock up and hit that. Just be careful because you will put a little bit of damage into this kickstand if you care. Now this is a pretty small bike, and I'm talking about literally, look at how wide I am and look how wide the bike is. It is not that big whatsoever. The tires are obviously very small too, but that kind of makes this bike pretty fun because you got to think about it. It's only 55 pounds with a 7-pound battery in it, and that's including the battery weight as well. So this bike is under 50 pounds without that battery in there, and without the front wheel on, it's only 50 pounds, but obviously you need that to ride. The cool thing about this front wheel, it's the only thing you have to do to put this bike together, and it's a through axle, and it has a quick disconnect. So if you got a flat on the front, very, very easy to do, even though it does come with slime in here, so that should help. But anyways, let me sit on the bike so you guys can see what I look like on it. I'm 5'9", I'm 170 pounds. This bike holds up to 330 pounds, and I felt like this seat height was pretty good for me. I could flat foot it. I could probably lift up the seat just a little bit more. It will accommodate a rider that's 5'2", probably up to, I think, 6'4". So if you are short or tall, you can definitely get on this bike and be very comfortable. Now let's jump into the cockpit area. This is how it's gonna look if you sit on the bike for the first time. You got some palm rest grips right here. They do move ever so slightly, but they feel very, very comfortable. You have the throttle on the left-hand side. You have your plus and minus buttons to go up in pedal assist level. So that's all you're really gonna be using those for. If you hold the top button, that's to turn your light on and off. And this is the main power button. Just hold that to turn the screen off, and then hold it to turn it back on. The display looks absolutely lovely. It's the M7C-2. I love that you can see the power up here. You can see the battery bars. You can see the speed real big, the pedal assist right there, and you see your mileage. But you can also hit the power button over here, and you can scroll through some stuff. So you can go your trip. You can go to, well, I don't know what that is. We'll just skip that. And you can go to voltage, which is a huge, nice thing they have on this bike. So you can see the voltage on where you're actually at, just in case you're unsure about these battery bars up here. And then if you hit it over again, you can see the current power coming out of that controller. And then you can see the time that the bike has been on. Then it goes back into the mileage. On the right-hand side, you got the same grip, and you have your shifters over here. So if you don't want it to automatically change gears and you want to do it manually, this is where you would do it. And the cool thing is when you do hit that button, you can hear it switch gears. And this is pretty much the star of the show on this bike is gonna be the Pinion system. This is the C1.6i, and it is super cool. If you go on their website, you can see how these things are put together and how the gears look inside, and it is just absolutely awesome. It also has an app that you can use to automatically adjust your settings on here. All right, so let's see how this app works. You can hit add device. I have the bike on. Hit allow, it should find it. This is an Android phone, by the way. All right, it looks like it found it. Let's go into configure, and you should have a few different stuff we can do in here, which is super cool, like smart select, pre-select. You can select the gears. Oh, that's sick. This is a super cool feature. Oh, that's awesome. Target cadence. Oh, that's sick. We're gonna definitely have to put our phone up here while we ride this bike and adjust some of these settings. If you want to know what these settings mean, safe and efficient starting is very important, especially for e-bikes. Start select can be activated to support this. Set your desired starting gear according to your preference and it will automatically engage after stopping. What's pre-select? When coasting, pre-select automatically shifts into the gear that matches your speed. For example, following downhill sections, this function helps you to change into the climb without having to manually shift down first. This thing is sick. Now that you guys know that and everything cool about this bike and why it's gonna be the perfect bike if you're someone that loves to pedal, I think this is gonna be sick. It's gonna be a very interesting feel. I've never felt anything like this before. So without further ado, let's get the action camera. Let's go out for a spin and see how fun this is. All right, what's up guys? We are now shooting on the action cam and this is legit my first time being on this bike other than testing it up and down the street, making sure everything worked. And my first initial impression being on a real public road is this thing is so nimble and lightweight. It just corners like crazy. It feels like I'm not riding anything heavy underneath me. It just feels so light. It feels amazing to ride, all right? And then the next thing I noticed when I was coming up to lights is that it automatically downshifts for you. So when I have all this pedal resistance right now, and then I come up to a light and I'm like, oh man, I got a downshift to go into gear number 1 if I want to start pedaling again, I don't have to do that. Now, one thing I did notice on this bike though, when I first got on it, is that you do have to pause for a brief second for it to be able to shift into the next gear. Now you can use the throttle if you want, if you don't want to pedal this bike, but it only goes up to 20 miles an hour. Now out of the box, this bike actually only goes 20 even if you're pedaling. So let me show you how to change that real quick so you guys know how to unlock this bike to class 3 if you don't want to be limited to class 2. You hold these two plus and minus buttons, go in the settings, so you got to hit the power button and go all the way over to 8. Change 8 from 32 to 45 and that should be all you gotta do. And I should take this little screen protector off so you can see the screen a little bit better. So again, if you want to use the throttle, it's very torquey. I mean, it's not the fastest bike I've ever been on, but for how lightweight this bike is, it feels awesome. And don't worry, I'm gonna have to put the smartshift app up here because I really want to show that to you guys, because right now I wanted to see what our top speed was on this bike. Now, so far, it's only saying that I hit 26 miles on here, but the bike is saying about 28. So let's see if we can beat that. Let me shift up real quick. There we go. Got some resistance. Now I'm like working with the bike, definitely getting a workout. But if you want to change the cadence on this bike, you can. You just go into the smartshift app and change the cadence. I think you can go down to like 40 and then you go all the way up to like 90. It is super cool. I'll definitely be showing you guys that soon. Personally, me, I love the automatic shifting, especially coming to something like this and not even having to hit any buttons, and the maintenance that you're gonna have with this bike compared to those other ones with the derailleurs and all that kind of stuff. This is cool. This is really cool. But without further ado, let's test this bike out and see how fast it is. Let's see if we reached 27 on here. And here we go, 1, 2, 3. Woo! There it goes. I'm gonna manually shift so I can see exactly how fast. We're already at 20, 23, 25. It's a little off over here. Not bad whatsoever. 26 miles an hour. So as you can see, I got the app loading up, but it's not connecting. It says it's trying to connect, but it's not. I've been having a little bit of issues with the app connecting to it every single time, but once you're connected, it's good. So look, connection failed, checking device. So what you need to do, come over here, hold this down. You're gonna hear it slightly beep, and then do it for about 5 beeps, let off, close this, and let's go back, hit our device that we already added, and it's connecting. There you go. Now it's connected. So that's a little workaround that you might have to hold this down to get it reconnected. All right, so start select. We already looked into that. That's if you wanted to start at a certain gear. I'm not going to do that. Pre-select gear is probably one of the best features because it automatically selects the gear you need to be in. And then your start gear, you can have it start in 1, 2, or 3, depending on how you want to feel when you take off from a light. Target cadence, this is pretty cool. It comes at 65 or 70 because I've been messing around with this a little bit. Oh, okay, you can go up to 95, then you can go down to 45. So I actually felt like it was pretty good right in the middle. I don't want to mess with that too much. And that's pretty much about it. You can come into some other settings, I believe, and you can calibrate the gear shifter if you want. I don't have to do that. Reverse trigger mapping, I'm not gonna mess with that. We don't need to do that. Basically what that means is you can switch these around. So if you want this to go up in gear, you can. If you want this to go down in gear, you can basically flop them. But other than that, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna put my speed meter back up on here and let's go. Definitely feels like a really good bike to get off starting, and 1300 watts is what it's showing me on the display. The only thing is, this is a pedal bike, so you definitely have to pedal. And you can't use the throttle and the pedals together. That's something I noticed. So if you hit the throttle, then the pedals won't activate. And if you do the opposite, it won't work. So you gotta choose either or. Whatever's activated first. So like, I'm using the throttle first, and now my pedals aren't doing anything. See, look, I'm limited to 20. But if I let off and I start pedaling, it goes to the pedals, and then look, if I use the throttle, it's not limiting my power. It's going all to the pedals right now. So here is how the bike looks out in the sun. It looks great other than that Chinese food bag that's right behind it messing up my shot. But yeah, I actually didn't even clean up the bike or anything. It's been sitting in my garage for a little bit because I've been having some medical problems. But other than that, the bike looks great. It did come with a little bit of minor scratching that hopefully Lectric can work on, because I have this nick right here. And then if I flip it over to this side so you can see it in the sun, I have another one, and it's a big one right here. So if you can see that, that's a massive scratch right there. So I'd be a little bit disappointed if, you know, you pay $2,000 for a bike and it's nicked up like that. Obviously the battery is removable. The only thing is I wish this seat had a mount where it would fold up and then you could pull the battery straight out. To get the battery out, you have to remove this, pull the seat post out, then you can pull the battery up. A little minor inconvenience, not that bad, especially if you set this to the perfect height for you and then you have to readjust it. That kind of sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And then obviously we had the rear rack back here, holds 30 pounds, not much, but it's decent to have something, maybe even an extra battery or something like that if you could mount it up here. And then you have some mounting bolts right here, which we also have a little bit more damage right here on the bike. And then there's also mounting brackets way down here. So if you can see those two, there's two right here. So you can definitely put a water bottle or something over there, whatever you can fit on it. So the next thing I like to do in my test are the hill test. And we're gonna do this with throttle only, then we're gonna do it with pedals. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. I'd be surprised if it doesn't make it up this. Oh yeah, no problem. I wasn't helping it out whatsoever, just throttle only. Yeah, that's awesome. This thing can definitely pop up in the front if you're not careful with the throttle, because it's so lightweight. And I'm not just making that up. If you were to accidentally barely hit it, it wants to come up. It really like wants to lift up. So make sure you kind of lean your body forward when you ride this bike. Now, let's try out the pedals. They should be exactly where they need to be with that gear selector. Let's go, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I started a little bit before 3, but look at that. No issue whatsoever. Give it a second, shifts gears, and we continue on our way. Once you get past, ooh, now we have street tires, so I'm not gonna say this is the best bike for off-roading, but I'll let off, shifts gears again. Oh man, oh yeah. Woo. We almost wiped out right there. I don't really recommend this bike hauling ass in the dirt because these are really just a solid street tire. There is no tread on them for off-roading. Definitely be careful out here. Just I'd stay on the road, all right? Now, one thing you guys might not like about this bike is that there is no suspension. Now, it makes the bike feel nice and solid and sturdy, you know, but the fact that there's no front suspension, it makes going over stuff like this pretty rough. Like, if I gave this a rating, it would pretty much be like a 3 out of 10, probably even a 2 out of 10, because there's no suspension. It feels great on smooth roads, bike paths, all that kind of stuff, but not in areas like this. I will, however, say I love the display. Looking at it, I can see everything going on with it. The battery bar system is pretty cool. It's not a very tiny speck in the corner of the screen like most bikes. It's all the way across the top, and it looks like it's reading pretty good so far. Let's get behind traffic. I'm a car. Oh, that reminds me, there's no horn. It would have been nice to have any type of horn, maybe even a bell in the box, but there is nothing like that. So if you need to honk at anybody, you don't have that option. There's just nothing. Look at this. It takes off decently well. Now, if you use the throttle up to 20 miles an hour, it will automatically sense like how fast you're going and put you in the right gear as soon as you start pedaling at 20 miles an hour, which is awesome. So I think I'm gonna stick with using the throttle to get up to speed and then pedal after 20 miles an hour. And this is where I normally do the turning test, and I already told you earlier, this bike turns so sharp, you gotta be careful. It is so nimble and light. I mean, I feel like I'm just riding a feather. It's fantastic. Like, I love bikes that are very lightweight because they make it easier just to, you know, load up in your car or just maneuver out of the way. You know, bigger bikes are real hard to kind of like twist and turn. They do make them better for straightaways. This is a little bit more, you gotta be attentive, because if you hit a pothole, the steering does like to kind of jimmy over, and you definitely don't want to go down. But I haven't really experienced anything like that. But I will say, this is not the most solid bike for riding with no hands or even one-handed. So keep that in mind. If you're on a bumpy terrain, this bike really can't stay too straight. And the next thing we gotta do is a brake test. It's already coming up. We're hauling ass today, so I'm going as fast as this bike will go. We're gonna stop 1, 2, 3. Wow. Yeah, a little bit of tire chirp. You can see the tire mark starting over there, and not bad whatsoever. We stopped behind the line. If it stops behind this line right here, it's one of the better bikes, and you don't really have much to stop, so it worked very good. Hydraulic brakes, front and back. Now, I know I mentioned the battery bar setup at the top is super nice, but it hasn't went down at all, and I've put about 2 miles on this bike so far. So what I want to do is I want to go over, and our voltage is looking at 49 volts, 48 volts under throttle, and then when I let off, it's going up to 51.5. I really think that the pedal enthusiast out there that loves the automatic gear change, really, this bike is a game changer. Now, personally for me, I just want to go as fast as possible for the cheapest possible. I can see a lot of people out there saying this bike is too expensive. I get it. Like, I'm right there with you. But when you realize what this bike comes with and what it does compared to other bikes out there, it makes sense. Just for me, I obviously think it's just expensive, but I'm not gonna hate on it. I'm definitely not gonna hate on it because it feels like a pretty premium bike. The only con I'm really having about it right now is no front suspension. I really think that should have been included, but I'm definitely still having a fun time. I don't really like to pedal bikes too much, but this actually kind of changes my mind. Like, I don't have to stay in like one gear, it does it for me. The biggest thing is coming up to a light, like coming up right here and slowing down, and it automatically like changing for you. Like, that is amazing. Now, we are gonna see how fast it goes downhill. I feel like this bike has a hard cap on it. Oh God, I gotta make it. I gotta make it. Don't go. Yeah, this bike will not allow you to go any faster. If it has a hard cap on it, I'm not getting really any power. It's only giving me 100 watts of power coming downhill. I would have loved to seen it like hit like over 30 when coming down a hill, but it just won't do it. And my max speed does say we did 29 miles an hour, so it is rated for 28 miles an hour if you switch it over to class 3, so no discrepancies there. Having a great time. Honestly, really kind of enjoying myself on this bike. It's not bad. Now, I might want to replace the seat. The seat's not terrible, but I feel like if I was gonna be riding this thing for probably 20 to 25 miles, which is probably what you're gonna get out of this bike, especially because it doesn't have like a crazy amount of power and you're not holding a lot of weight, you know, with the bike. The only way you're gonna get less range than probably 20 miles an hour is if you're like a bigger person or you're always going up hills and inclines and stuff like that. Now, the next thing we gotta test out is, let's see how fast the throttle works. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. Nice gradual start though, I noticed. Didn't feel that sluggish whatsoever, but the power kind of slowly ramped into giving you max power. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, and you can see, I can see the power start at 500, 600, 700, now it's at 1300 right now. And then it stopped, we capped out, so now we're only at like 300 watts. But yeah, so it does activate within under a second, but the power slowly ramps up. Now let's try the pedals and see how that works. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. Just as fast as the throttle, no issues with that. Let's try this one more time. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, and the power ramps up just like it did with using the throttle. And that sucks. Hate to get a ticket, man, but everyone be flying down this road. I thought he was trying to check me for my speed. I've been seeing those all over the place of people getting checked for their speed on an electric bike, even using drones to see how fast people are going. Well, on this bike, you won't have to have that issue because it definitely does not go over 28 miles an hour. Well, it did do 29. That was just a little hiccup, but we won't tell anybody about that. It's like a bad spot to break down. Dang, I wonder what happened there. It looked like a bunch of oil was like coming from her car, so just a weird spot for that to happen. Maybe she was speed racing down that street too, I don't know. Can't tell you. Now I've noticed on this bike that very last gear, it either shifts into it or it doesn't shift into it. So I sometimes manually do it, but I mean, still, it's doing pretty much what it needs to do. And if you really want to change some settings in there, you definitely can. And I really feel like I would probably change the cadence of this bike, because at times I feel like it's too light, and then I feel like at other times like it's just too tight. I think I want to have it more resistance against my feet. So I would basically just go in there and change the cadence up and down and figure out what's best for you, which is obviously the biggest pro of this bike, is figuring out how you want to ride and how you want to feel. You're having a lazy day, just make it very light so you're moving your feet and it's just enough to give the bike power. But if you really want to get some exercise in, then turn that bitch up and then you can... Damn, what the hell? And then you can definitely really feel that in the pedals when you ride. And yeah, that car kind of scared me. Another thing to note on this bike, I should have told you guys a long time ago, it is absolutely quiet. I hear nothing. I hear the tires more than anything. I hear the gear shifter more than anything, but don't hear the motor whatsoever. Let's go over to current. There we go. I was curious to see what our current was coming out of the controller. And right now we're pushing about 10 amps. Ooh, that was about 14 because I went up a slight hill. But let's see what happens if I slow all the way down and do it from a standstill. I want to see what current we're going to have. So here we go. Let's use a throttle. Go 11, 12, 14, 16, 17, 19, 20, 22, 24. And it stopped. There we go. And then it just cut out because we hit 20 miles an hour. We got to pedal. All right, but getting up to speed, yeah, you're using a whole 23 to 24 amps. And then when you get up to speed, you're using about 10 to 13 roughly. And then if you really hold a good line, you're not going uphill or downhill, you'll get about 7 to 9. That's not bad. That's really gonna save your battery life. And talking about battery life, we just lost 2 bars out of nowhere. That's kind of funny actually. It went from like we lost 1 and then we lost 2. Unless I just was not paying attention, but it's going down, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go over here. So the time I've been out here, almost 30 minutes, and odometer is 9 miles, trip is 7. I'm still not sure what RNG is. Once I find that out, I'll put it up on the screen. Maybe it has something to do with how much you've been pedaling during the ride. I'm not sure. Voltage is 48 volts flat. All right, I'm gonna leave it on voltage so I know what's going on. This is cool. Like, this is actually a pretty unique bike. You know, not every day do I get a unique bike that has some cool, unique features on it. I normally just get every single Chinese bike out there that has the same spec, same motor, same controller, same everything, and they just kind of slightly change up the frame or the battery size or something. And this one's pretty cool, I gotta say. Thank you, light, for letting me go. Oh, crap. This thing turns so sharp, it scared the heck out of me. You can really get low on this bike. These tires aren't those 4-inch wide tires that feel like real sluggish when you really start turning them. This thing will turn on a dime. So that definitely makes it very, very nimble. But one con to that is, for example, some of these trees will drop down like pine cones or something like that. And if you hit one of those probably on this bike compared to a bike that has a 20-inch tire and they're 4 inches wide, you might go down on this one compared to those other bikes. It really depends on you and how you're riding and your awareness and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, a smaller tire is gonna be affected by stuff. Think about a skateboard wheel that's smaller in size when you hit a pebble compared to a bigger skateboard wheel that hits a pebble. That'll go right over it. Smaller wheel won't. You probably slam yourself into the ground. So it's not a big deal though, as long as you're just riding carefully, which we'll have to do another video on this thing riding at night. So subscribe if you want to see that, and I'll take it to work and we'll see how the lights are, because I don't think this light is the best. I love the fact that it's on the front fender. The brake light looks great in the back. Go, man, go. Go, go. It's your turn to go. What are you waiting for? There was no one here. You just, man, he ruined everybody. Whoa, I just felt it shift 2 gears at once. Oh, this thing is definitely cool. I'm still trying to get used to it, so I gotta say I'm not like the perfect person to technically be reviewing this thing, because I don't ride bikes like that. I just sit on a bike. I normally don't pedal, but again, I said this many times during this review, and I'm not hating on it. I feel very comfortable It's very natural. Like, I'm getting a slight workout, but I'm also not killing myself because it is decently hot out here. I think it's almost 100 degrees. It's like 98, and I'm not feeling that bad whatsoever. Most bikes that I pedal, I'm in one gear, and I don't remember to drop it down, so I use the throttle to get up to speed, and then I start pedaling again, but I'm still not at the correct speed, and I feel real sluggish, and then it slowly starts like lessening up, or I just sit there and use the throttle the whole time, and I'm perfectly fine. But I don't know, I like it. Let's get back to the house, give you guys my final conclusion, and then see you guys in the second video. I don't know what it is with people. Everyone at lights, they always want to wait for me. Doesn't make any sense, just go. Like, treat it like a four-way stop. That cop was probably, look, I should just blew through it. See if he would pull me over. All right, now I'm starting to feel the burn now that we're back in the garage where it's hella hot right now. But here's my final conclusion on this bike. Now, there's obviously a lot going for it. I'm obviously not really the candidate for a gear selecting e-bike that does it automatically, which is one of the coolest features of this bike. That's why you would buy this bike, is to have that. If you don't want to have a bike with any maintenance or whatsoever, this is great. It doesn't even have a chain. There's no oil you need to put up. There's no derailleur you need to mess with, no gears that might, you know, start messing up over time. This is a great bike. The only maintenance you're really going to need is tires over time, maybe some brake pads, and then grips. That's the only thing you're probably going to be changing. I will say though, I haven't fully rode it at night yet, but when I was testing it, it was kind of at night, and I did get a little tiny glimpse of the headlight just on my block, but I also had street lights above me. The headlight did not seem very good. The brake light seemed better than the headlight. It definitely gets bright, and it also flashes when you hit the brake levers, which is nice. And even if you don't have the headlights on, the brake light still works. Now the seat, I'm not gonna say it's the worst seat ever. I'm gonna give it like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. It's up there, but it's not the best seat, especially if you're gonna be riding for really long periods of time. But everyone's built different, and seats are very easy to change up. You can get them on Amazon or at your local bike store. But I don't really think I would change anything about this other than I was really disappointed that it had no front suspension. And because of that, it makes it a pretty rough ride when you go over some really bumpy roads. Like, I noticed the bike kind of hopping up because it's also light as well. So if you hit a big pothole doing 28 miles an hour, it kind of like bunny hops over, and it doesn't feel very comfortable when sitting on the seat. And it's really just going to depend on how you ride and where you're at. But if you're going off road with this bike, I would probably pass on it. Like, it's still definitely going to climb hills and stuff like that, which is great, especially with the gear system that's on here. I'm just trying to think of anything else I didn't like about it. Like, I know the seat I wish folded this way so that you can pull the battery straight up. And I guess maybe a con to some of you guys is going to be the fact that this one from Lectric does not fold in half. I guess that's a con. It's not a big con to me. This does fold down, so you have this little mechanism right here. You just push this in, then you're gonna move this out of the way and then fold it down. It's a little stuck on there. And then you also have micro adjustments up here, so you can pull this and you can move the handlebars wherever you want. It's a little finicky to try to get it to move. Make sure this bolt under here is very tight, because this was very loose when they came in. But yeah, I like the fact that you have this micro adjustment right here, and you can do it on the fly and then put it wherever you want. And it's such a light bike. The front end turns really good. You can tell, obviously, as soon as I let go, it just wants to fly over. Really good bearings or whatever they're using in here. It was very nice and smooth. And I think the only con is gonna be for people if it's gonna be worth it or not. $2,100, like, you gotta think that that's worth it. Oh, here's one of the biggest cons I thought about. So check this out. So as you're moving the bike back, let's say I wanna push it back here with all my other bikes, and look how close they are together, right? So let's say I'm pushing it back and I'm in the front of the bike, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's not moving. Well, that's because the kickstand comes in contact with the cranks. I think that was an oversight. I feel like maybe they should have been a little bit farther back. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. I mean, it's not a big deal for most people, but for me, it is kind of a big deal because I always push my bikes back in here. That's how I store them, and I always have to kick the kickstand out of the way and then move it back and then try to reach in there to kick the kickstand back down and then lean it over with the rest of my bikes. But I'll let you guys be the judge. I'll have links, discount codes all down in the description. It's a cool bike. If you're really a pedal enthusiast out there, you're really gonna like it, and it sounds pretty cool. That's actually one of my favorite features of it, is just how it sounds going through the gear, just But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one when we take this thing to work and see how the night riding is. And I also have another light that I'll put on the handlebars from the same company, and we'll see how that compares to that front light. So see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Wait, don't click out of the video yet. I forgot to tell you the range of this bike. So I went 8.4 miles on here. My max speed was 29 miles an hour. I was out here for 35 minutes, and our battery bars are all the way up to 100%. Again, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but if I go all the way over here, my voltage resting is 40 49.4 volts. I'll put the chart up on the screen so you can see. And keep in mind, I did do about 1.5 miles, almost 2 miles before I took this out for my review, just going up and down the street. So if we add that on, we did technically around 10 miles, if not 10.25 miles to being at 49.7 volts. So now you guys can go. True MVPs.